everyone. I'm Carnes, and this is Living Consciously. We're taping this the first week of January 2018, so we're continuing on in our lessons about the difference between a resolution, which feels imposed from on high, something we're not going to remember or keep, an intention, which we talked about in previous programs, is a whole different feel. To set an intention is much more personal and more powerful than a resolution. But now I'm going to take it a step further. Today we're talking about making promises to ourselves. See, we all know what it feels like when we keep a promise to somebody. It feels good. It feels like integrity. We all know what it feels like when someone breaks a promise to us. It feels bad. So if we're promising ourselves things that we want to achieve in 2018, then we've set in motion something that only we can tear apart. You know, if we do not keep the promise to ourselves, we're the one preventing our desire from taking shape. Life isn't. Other people are not. But we are. So sometimes we know what to do, but we resist doing it. So when we make a promise to ourselves to begin, or to at least try something, we've kind of taken the pressure off. Can you feel the difference? I certainly can, even as I say it. So the downfall of most good intentions is we know what to do, but can't get ourselves to do it. But if we've made a promise to ourselves, and you know, if we don't keep promises to ourselves, what does that say about us? What does that say about our relationship with ourselves, or our level of self-regard, self-respect, self-esteem? We want to keep those high, don't we? Of course we do. So a promise to ourselves is saying, I'm worth it. I am worth, and actually what it really is your better nature, your higher self, your true self, taking charge of this want, need, gotta have ego self, and replacing it with a really clear path to success. Make some promises to yourself. All right, so make sure you make every day a promise-keeping experience, and make sure you make promises you can keep. For example, we want to be able to celebrate the good we have now. That's a promise that we can make to ourselves. If you want greater wealth in your life, and who doesn't? You know, who couldn't use more prosperity? It's not greedy, it's just expanding our experience and giving us more to work with. All right, so if it's greater wealth you want, make a promise that you will celebrate what you have now every day, because it keeps you in the consciousness of sufficiency. It keeps you in the consciousness of enough. It keeps you in the consciousness of flow, that what I have is good and very good, and I celebrate it, I'm grateful for it, and I allow it to expand and increase. So make a promise, if wealth is your goal, to celebrate every day what you already have. It helps us to focus on just how rich our life really is. And that opens up the door in our mind, as it were, to accepting even more, or an expansion. So we also want to make a promise. Again, we're still on the subject of increased prosperity. We want to make a promise to ourselves, and this is a big one for a lot of people, to praise wealth wherever we see it. How many of us, be honest now, how many of us judge rich people and say that they're ruthless, they're crooks, or they're selfish or greedy or something like that? Wherever you see wealth, praise it. This is not about what other people do with it or how they got it. It's wealth itself we're praising. The evidence of the flow of supply into life, and it does happen. It happens to lots of people. It can happen to you and me. All right? So make a promise that you will not judge other people for how they use their wealth or how they got it. That's easy to do? It'll be a challenge, I think. Catch yourself when you're doing the opposite and keep your promise. Okay? Make a promise again on the subject of increased prosperity, to share what you have every day in some way with someone. Now that could mean supporting your church or any organization you really believe in. It could mean giving a few bucks to someone on the street who could probably use a hot meal. It could mean buying a gift and giving it joyfully, and it could mean all kinds of things. You get really creative about where could I share my good right now. And I bet you if you sat down and made a list, you'd come up with a pretty long one. But make a promise that you'll do something about that every day. Because what we're establishing here is getting in the flow. If we don't share our money, our wealth, it's as if we feel we don't have enough and we have to hoard it. It's never a good idea. We're not talking about being reckless with it. We're talking about consciously keeping a promise that we will participate in the dispersion of prosperity, beginning with ourselves, okay? All right, so we give ourselves the gift of sharing. Now, what about if you desire better health? How can making promises to yourself help you maintain and achieve a higher level of vitality and perfect functioning in your body and what we call health? Well, I always start every day, if I can, and if I remember to do it, and it's really important to me that I do, is that I promise myself to be grateful for how perfectly the physical body functions without any interference from me. That if just left to its own devices, the body is an amazing example of intelligence, reorganizing itself constantly to maintain a kind of wholeness, which we call health. So we make a promise that we will be grateful for this body. Now that's very different from criticizing like, oh, I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, or I'm sagging, or I don't have any energy. That's not praise. That chips away at our sense of wholeness and well-being, which all adds up to health. So let's maybe make a promise to choose healthful activities, and it could be food. Let's make a promise to ourselves that given the choice, and we always have one, that we will choose really nutritious food that actually promotes health in the body. That doesn't mean we don't have treats once in a while. Of course we do. I'm talking about an overall kind of emphasis that we see this beautiful body as if, let's go in a spiritual realm here. We see this beautiful body as a container of the soul, if you will, or a vehicle for the expression of spirit or God. So it deserves to be strong, full of energy, flexible, able to move, and be that vehicle for the expression of spirit. So we want to nourish it. So let's make a promise. I promise myself to make wise choices regarding food. That's easy, isn't it? And you can remember it easier, when you're tempted to just, something that is really empty. Beyond having a nice, beyond treating yourself, I'm talking about as a habit of just choosing the easiest thing to eat, the fastest thing, the cheapest thing. We want to really make some conscious choices. Now, here's one I really like. I make a promise to myself to give my body some fun. And that could mean dancing, skating, what else? I can think of all kinds of things, and I know you can too. Running and jumping and even exercising, playing a sport. Give the body some fun. Let's see what it can do at any age. Make a promise to yourself. I promise to give my body some fun. All right? Give it something to do. The body is a vehicle for self-expression for sure, but it's also what I call, which is the title of my book, the way in for the universal aspect of life to express itself locally and personally. So we're really in a relationship. Our body is our way of having a relationship with the infinite. Think about that a little bit. What if you desire that perfect love? So many people want that other person. They want to meet their soulmate. Or maybe they're in a relationship and they really want to take it to another level. They really want it to deepen, or they really want to be more intimate with their partner, more connected, to really see each other. All right, so let's make a promise, starting with, I promise to be unconditional in my love for myself. You see, it all begins with self. We have to love ourselves unconditionally, and that means not referring to our past mistakes or what we shoulda, woulda, coulda done if we knew better. It means loving ourselves anyway. Loving yourself anyway is a really great thing. And if you can love yourself unconditionally, you can love others unconditionally. You see, it's a really beautiful thing how that works. But it always starts with us. So let's make a promise. I promise this year I will love myself unconditionally. I will not should upon myself. I will not tear down my self-respect and self-esteem by constantly referring to what I could have done in the past and didn't do. Right? Is that a promise you can keep? I think so. It just has to be uppermost in our mind that that's what we're about, that's what we're doing. Along the same lines, if we're really wanting love in our life and real deep relationships and connections with people, which reminds me of something as an aside. A friend of mine said the other day, I'm making a promise to myself that I'm really going to see people. She said, sometimes you meet someone new, or you're even an old friend, and you're not really seeing them. You're in your own head thinking about what you're going to say next, or you're thinking about what you're going to do later, or you're not meeting their eyes, only briefly. She said, I'm really going to see them. I thought that's a really good one, because one of my promises was to make deeper connections with people. And that can be yours too. I promise to deeply connect with others as much as I possibly can. Really honor them by being present. But the one I was going for was, I promise to release any resentments I may hold against anyone from my past or my present. Can you keep that promise? You can if you write it down and tend it, and then when you find yourself negating someone, like, oh, they were so, you can just say, oh, I promised myself I wouldn't do that anymore. And don't do it. Just let it go. Love them unconditionally. They made mistakes. People make mistakes, and we're all in this together, There's an old saying, there's nobody here but us chickens. There's nobody here but us evolving souls, okay? So we all make mistakes, and we all do things we wish we hadn't done. So let's let it go, make a promise to release any resentments. And that leads us to another one, which is promising to forgive and forget, to open up our heart to all people and to include humanity. If you really want the perfect love in your life, you've got to love everybody first. I believe that. You've got to be in love. So these are just a few examples. We'll talk more about it when we come back. We're going to take our first break, our only break, and where we honor and are grateful for our sponsors. So take a listen and come right back. We'll be here.
This is a national healthcare alert from the Health Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You could qualify for a pain-relieving knee brace at little or no cost to you. Get free delivery, and all the paperwork is handled by our accredited suppliers at no charge to you. We also have other pain-relieving braces available for shoulder, ankle, and your back. Call the number on your screen right now to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business. According to the secret war, banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get the secret war free. Call the number on your screen or visit online.
Hi everyone, I'm Carol Carnes and we're back with Living Consciously. And we've been talking today about the sequence from resolutions to intentions to making promises to ourselves. And I believe that is really a very powerful thing to do. So we'll say a promise kept is the making of a miracle. That's how, what's a miracle? Well, it's something you've wanted and thought you couldn't have. and it comes about. It's like, that's my little miracle. Really, it's an ordinary, but miracles are fun to think about. But it just means something is made manifest that you thought you couldn't have. So we're working with things we know are effective to bring about the change of mind that allows those things to come into our experience. A promise kept is the making of a miracle. So here we are at the first week of January. Let's begin again. We're starting over, but we're not starting from nothing. We're starting from the source of everything. We're starting from this infinite field of possibility. So we can make this year the one that's better than all the others, and we will do that if we participate in it and keep promises to ourselves. We always start with ourselves. You can't change the world if you're a mess. And I'm not saying you are, right? But we all have issues. We all have things we need to clear up. And there's an answer for every one of them. It's a way to think. Change your thinking, change your life. I'm not kidding. So the first step to consider what you are wanting in your life for yourself is to ask a question. Is it possible? It's a good question, isn't it? Ask yourself, is it even possible? Is it possible for me to be more prosperous? Well, of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? But we get into a mindset of thinking it isn't. We've got to really challenge these old ideas. Is it possible for you to be healthier? Yes, of course it's possible. Is it possible for you to have more love in your life? Certainly. Anything we cherish, anything we desire, anything we call good, it's possible for it to increase. In our experience, it's possible for it to become really fabulous, really beyond anything we ever expected before. It's possible. So that's where we start. We have to agree that it is possible. Because, that may seem, obvious, but a lot of people don't think it's possible for them to have what they really, truly desire. And that's because they're not keeping their promises to themselves, and maybe they're not even making promises to themselves. But it's a mindset of not enough, and it comes from old stuff. I don't even want to get into it today, but it comes from old religious ideas of the haves and the have-nots, and there's not enough to go around and all that nonsense. There's plenty to go around. There's plenty of everything for everybody. So we must know beyond a twinge of a doubt that anything we desire is possible, and there is no withholding power. There is no lesson teacher in the sky. There is no principle that wants to deny your good. There's no karma. It's all cause and effect, and the cause is in here, and it's now. The past can't impinge on the present unless you bring it into it. I want to say that again. Your past cannot influence the present, impinge itself upon the present, unless you allow it to. And that means, how would you allow the past? By making it present now. And that's why in the last segment we talked so much about making a promise to release old resentments and forgive and forget, making a promise to be current in our thinking right now. This is the key, believe me. This really works. Okay? So we want to see now as a clean slate or a blank canvas, whichever metaphor appeals to you. We're starting from an infinite possibility. You might want to say that out loud to you right now, like, I promise to remember that now is the only reality. That's a big one, but make that promise. So, there's nothing but us and the source, and this is what I'm using as my mantra this year. And I'm making myself a promise that I wrote it down, so I want to be really clear about it. I'm making myself a promise to remember that there is nothing but God and me. Whatever God is, it's an infinite power. It's beyond comprehension. It's not a person. It's aliveness, it's intelligence, it's joy, it's love, okay? There's nothing but my source and me influencing my life. Not outer events, not what's on the news, not who's in office, not my past. Nothing but Spirit and me are creating the life I am living. I make a promise to myself to keep that truth uppermost in my mind. There's only one power in my life, and that's Spirit. And it has nothing but good for me because its tendency is to produce after its own kind. What does that mean? It means its tendency is to express through what we call the vehicle. Remember in the first part of this show, we called the human body and the personality the vehicle for God's expression. It tends to personalize itself by means of the vehicle. Well, what does that mean, personalize itself? Well, if Spirit, God, the source, is love, peace, joy, power, intelligence, vitality, and supply, it wants to bring those through me and through you. So this is what I'm remembering this year. That's the only power in my life. Nothing else. Not the economy, not the weather, not my ex-husband, nothing. No virus. Spirit. That's the only power in my life. That's my partner. That's who I'm co-creating this life with. So the I am that I am, and that's you too. Say this out loud. The I am that I am is the personal expression of the only I am there really is. The only awareness of being there really is the one that becomes the many, and it's everywhere present, all at once, all the time, all of it. Completely accessible to us through the avenue of our mind. And today we were talking about using this mind in a very specific way to make promises to ourselves that we can keep that will allow us to have a greater experience of that truth, a greater experience of the presence of something responsive that only wants our good for us, only wants us to be more prosperous, to have greater love in our life, and to be peaceful and vital and healthy and radiant. That's all Spirit wants for itself as us. Why would it want anything else? Okay? So, the weather is just the weather. It's temporary and passing. The latest craze, temporary and passing. And you know, the latest craze includes the latest ideas about things, and some of them are way off. Be your own person. Keep your own counsel. That's some of the greatest advice I was ever given. It's just keep your desires to yourself. Keep your own counsel. Don't go around telling everybody what you're doing or what you want. Just stay home. You know, Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, which is the great teaching that changed my life, he said, when you have a problem, don't talk to other people. Talk to yourself. Talk to yourself, because that's where the answer is. That's where God is. And collective beliefs. We can be greatly influenced by the collective, and that means what most people think. I'm not interested in what most people think. I'm not anymore. I'm interested in what I think, and I'm interested in what I can perceive to be true. And it's always about expansion and good. It's never about less or depletion. It's never about disease or illness. It's always about health, vitality, love, prosperity, supply, creative ideas, the flow of good, constant in my life. That's what I'm celebrating. That's the only power in my life, period. So, and it turns out I've actually been doing this all along, and so have you, but if we don't know it, it's not as effective. Because what we do, we don't realize we're using the infinite power that created the universe and everything in it to create our lives, and then we bring in lesser partners of guilt, grief, resentment, unforgiveness, fear, doubt, too much input from the news. It'll make you crazy if you buy into all this. It's all temporary. The only thing we're seeing on the news is a temporary manifestation of old ideas. So, this is going to be a year of living consciously like no other for me, and I know that for you too, but keep those promises to yourself because it's your miracle in the making. So, make it the best year of your life, and why not? Okay? So, I want you to come and be with me in person at the Mesilla Valley Center for Spiritual Living. And now, here's what we do. Every Sunday morning at 10:30, instead of your traditional church experience, we have something very different. We meet at the Mesilla Valley Community Center on Calle de Santiago in the little village of Mesilla, which is charming and wonderful. And I do a talk like I just did or something like that, but then you get to talk to me. You get to express your ideas. You get to ask me questions. It's really rich. And before we begin, we do 10 minutes of quiet, just deep meditation. Silence is something everybody needs, and it's hard to get in this world. So we offer that as part of our Sunday morning experience. We don't pass the hat. We have a bowl in the back for you to place your support, your donation if you choose to. So, it's very adult, but we find that young teenagers really love it, and they know this. They get this right off the bat. So come and visit us. We'd love to meet you in person. All right, you can also buy my book, The Way In, at lulu.com, or on Amazon. You can get the ebook on Amazon really inexpensively. It's a good book. It's has a little mini essay every day. Get on my website too, carolcarnes.com. Because I put up a daily message called Living Consciously, and you'll find them useful. You'll find them helpful. In the meantime, keep those promises to yourself. You are important. You are the key to your experience in your future. There's nothing else but you and God. So make it a priority to live, love, laugh, and have a good time, and make some promises and keep them. All right? So tell your friends that we're on YouTube. If they aren't local and they can't get this on Channel 98 in Las Cruces, tell them. Go to YouTube, Living Consciousness with Carol Carnes. Okay, see you next time. Stay tuned in.